again over the notes to start. Circle/pie graphs. All right, what can we get from these? And then maybe even figure out what's the difference going to be besides, well, one's a circle, one's a bar, of how this is going to work. So, circle graphs are a very good way to show what's called a part to a whole relationship. Like yesterday, when we were dealing with the bar graphs, yeah, I can look, okay, this bar is shorter or longer than this one, but I really don't get as good of a big picture. With these, you see the entire thing there in one circle, and you can literally see how big the chunks are next to each other, or even the percentages in this case. So every portion of the circle represents a percent out of 100. So kind of like what we see here. It can be a proportion. We saw a little bit of that yesterday. But we also can do it as a decimal and multiply by 100. So you have options again. And so our entire circle always will have a sum or a total of 100%. It won't be 98, it won't be 103, that'd be interesting, but it'll add up to 100. So if we've got something here, like we do with these two pie graphs or circle graphs with favorite sports and favorite desserts, kind of play the left for these and the right for these. So if 400 people were surveyed, that's a pretty good chunk of people. How many selected football as their favorite sport? Okay, I'm going to kind of split my box here. We'll kind of review the two ways we started to talk about. We can do these yesterday, and you just pick the one that you like doing a little bit better, whichever makes more sense to you. So, whenever we're doing percentages, it's the percent over 100. So this side would be the out of 100. And then did I just do something goofy? I did. Dang, that didn't take long today for me to do something goofy. I got to read a little better. Okay, let's try this again. This is where I have an advantage. I'll just put the post-it. We'll never know that I did that. Okay, if 400 people were surveyed, how many selected football? Okay, so if there's 400, and I'm trying to figure out how many, that's better. Because now I can look, and the reason I said that, and I did the 100 before, was I know what percent of people like football. And the percentage is always something over 100. So it's not necessarily every time going to be the X value going over 100. So here, if we go the proportion route, we're going to do a little cross multiplying. So let's see here. 29 times 400 is 11,600. And when we go this way, we've got 100x. And we do it more like we would an algebra problem. So 116 people out of the 400 would like football as their favorite sport, according to our graph. Now, what you also could do here, if you wanted, again, totally optional, a little less work involved. You could take the 400 times 29% as a decimal. And if you're never sure on a decimal, you just take a number, you divide it by 100. There's 0.29. And if I do 400 times 0.29, I also get 116. So whichever way seems to make more sense to you, that's the route I'd go. So, not bad. Not bad. And so we kind of start to take a peek and see, okay, is that going to be The only option that we have here is that our only use for our circle. Well, let's see. If 39 people selected track as their favorite sport, how many people, were surveyed in total? Okay. I'm going to try and keep this in here as long as I can. We're trying to figure out how many people were surveyed in total. How many is the whole? So 39 is the part. X is the whole. This is a little trickier. And then if I look at track, track is 13%. So when we're doing this, the 13% is always out of 100. Okay, so since we were looking for the total, this is where we always are going to find the total. The math part's the same. We're still going to cross multiply. And again, which one you do first and which one you do second has no difference with these. None at all. And then we're just going to divide by 13 and we'll figure out that 300 people were surveyed in this count. So we can get different pieces to this. It doesn't just have to be, how many were there of a certain type. We can also find percentages. We can find pieces. Now, one more twist. Ooh, this one might be a little longer to do. If 500 people were surveyed, okay, so there's your whole. How many more prefer volleyball than basketball? Okay, so there's two parts to this one. I got to figure out how many people preferred volleyball. I got to figure out how many people preferred basketball. So it's kind of like doing two separate problems. So we'll do volleyball first here. We know the whole. Again, I just keep coming back to this little fraction up here. We're going to be looking for the part. Volleyball, let's see, 22%. Okay. So we get that set up because we want to know how many people like volleyball. So change my colors back here. Divide that by 100. Whoops. Oh my gosh, I can't even write this morning. 110. Like the volleyball. Basketball is 18%. So my fraction will look exactly the same, except my percent number, since basketball was 18% up here, is going to be 18. Everything else, whoops. As soon as I looked, I'm like, why are both of those 500? That's kind of bad. So let's see here. 18 times 500. It's good. You all stay on top of me. You need to. I'm telling you. So I find out we got 90 that are digging the basketball. But again, the question is how many more prefer volleyball? So 110 minus 90 would be 20 extras. And so, now let's see, I'm just looking to see. do I want to do that? Yeah, I do want to do a at least one on the other side too, even though some of the questions are the same, but I do want to help out with some of the practice problems that we're going to do too, because I think there's a couple of questions on there that don't necessarily have a guide like these do. So let's see here. Which one do we want to match up with? Let's come back down. So now we're talking about dessert. A little early in the morning for dessert for me, but that's neither here nor there. If 28 people prefer cookies, then how many people were surveyed? Okay, so how many were surveyed? That's the whole. 28 people. That's the part. So 28. How many people? We don't know. And then cookies. Ooh, big cookie fans. Same cross multiplying. Come this way. Let's see here. 2,800. Oops. 2,800 divided by 35. So we got 80. Oops. I went a little quick there. 80. Smaller group than the other one. So our biggest thing that we're kind of seeing with the circle graphs is figuring out what part of the proportion are we being given. So let's see. For instance, let's kind of just keep rolling here because this can get interesting otherwise. So if 600 people participated in the dessert survey, so there's my whole, then how many people selected ice cream as their favorite? Okay, so there's the part. Labeling can even help sometimes to make sure we're in the right spot with some of these. Can I get that on here? There it is. So the part is the mystery instead of the whole. And ice cream, the whopping 40% of participants like. I don't know, I'm the weirdo. I like the pie. And again, we're just going to cross multiply. Divide that out by 100. Let's see here. $240 ice cream fans out there with our favorite spot. So you're like, okay, I'm seeing kind of some repeated things, seeing that. This last one is close, bless you, to what we were doing over here, except there's a one word of difference. So I do want to do this last one. If 300 people participated in the survey, you're like, okay, that's whole, just like the other one was. How many people prefer cookies and cake combined? Not the difference, not more of one than the other, but combined. So just like we did on the other one, we do need to figure out cookies and cake, or do we? Let's see here.
We could add
We could.
45 and 20.
I like it. So instead of doing two separate ones, one for cookies and one for cake, I'm with you. We could combine these, 35 plus 20, which would be 55%. I'm just going to put a little note next to this, 35 plus 20. And we can do it in one problem instead of two. Simplifying work, never a bad idea. Never a bad idea at all. So the thing here gets to be we've got to be really careful on what it's being asked for. You know, there's several ways you can tackle these. We can set the proportions up just a little differently, and it can make a big difference. So what we're going to do to make sure we're good, kind of practice a bit. I'm going to move this to the side for a moment. I will put it back momentarily if people need it. So we're going to be playing over here on 7 through 9, playing with some different things on charts in the practice. And what I want to do here for a moment is make sure that there's not something that's going to throw us for a loop. And so as I'm looking through that first pie graph, I'm like, all right, 40 students, how many received a C? Yeah, we did percentages. How many students earned a D? Okay, I could do the percentages. How many earned an A or a B? What fraction of the class? Ooh, what fraction of the class scored a B on the test? Ooh, hang on a sec here. This might be worded a little different. What fraction of the class scored a B on the test? Express your answer in lowest terms. You're like, okay. So let's see. Scored a B. So a B is 20%. So 20% of the class. Again, our percent's always the number that goes over 100. I can even pull this back over because using my notes, that's what they're there for anyway. So scored a B. So 20% of them scored a B. There's 40 students total. So you're like, we've done this. So why are we interested in this? Well, because the way that it's written, almost got a little ahead of myself there. There's a couple of ways we could have actually simplified this, but I'll explain that in a sec here. It's part of the learning process. So 8 students scored a B, but that's not the question. What fraction of the class? There's 40 students. So 8 out of 40, 8 divided by 40, math, enter, is 1/5. Is there a different way that I could have done the 1/5? How else could I have done it?
Just put 20 over 100 and simplify.
Absolutely. If we're just looking for what fraction of the class, that's just a different way of saying what percentage of the class. You can just put it in a different form. So you absolutely could just take the 20%, 20 over 100, and do math, enter right away, and you get the same thing. So, you know, more work isn't always better work. It worked, but again, we want to keep it simple, nicely done. And the last two here are on 8 and 9. I'm going to make sure we're not getting any weird ones. How many people voted for that? How many people voted? Now, let's come back up here to the top. Okay, just in case, because it's not right out there, the assistants polled 5,000 people. So here, again, the setup for all of these we have done. Okay, I just want to make sure on some detail stuff like understanding, okay, yep, I see what we've got for each one. Might not be a terrible idea to actually write in what they are, because some of these, let's make sure. So there's baseball, basketball, oh, did I already do? I already did do something funky. Dang it. All right, hang on. That's one bad thing. I wish I could, well, I might be able to run color on some of these. I just want to make sure we all got the same percentages here as we're going. I'm trying to see. Oh, yeah, there's my little dots. Okay. I wanted to make sure we had the same percentages so people weren't like, which one is it? Because that's tricky without colors. So we've got those on there, 50, 85, 95, 100. Okay, making sure we add up to 100 because that wouldn't be good. And then just one last one. I'm going to make sure our survey over here. This one, it actually is labeled already, thank goodness. And it's out of 150 total. Okay. I think we're good now on that part. So, as always, just as a quick reminder,